If you're intimidated by shellfish, mussels are the perfect entry-level bivalve. They were for me. Mussels are generally cooked, unlike oysters. They're sweet and generally free of any sand or other internal grossness, unlike clams. It's possible to make good food with frozen mussels, but if you can get them fresh and live on ice, that's the real deal. You gotta leave the bag open or they'll suffocate. They're alive. These are from Prince Edward Island in Canada. PEI mussels are famous because they're abundantly farmed. They're pretty much always very good, and you can get them all over the world via the miracle of modern shipping. I bought these in my normal grocery store here in Tennessee, and the whole bag was just $7. They hardly required any cleaning. I'm looking for beards, and finally, there's one. Those are the filaments with which the mussel anchored itself to the dangling rope on which it was farmed. It's gross, you just pull it out. Other than that, I found one tiny little bit of beard on this one, and that was it. Now I'll wash these. To me, the best thing about a bowl of mussels is the exquisite broth that they generate. So it would be sad if that broth was polluted with sand or little shards of shell on the surface of these. Just wash them off in a strainer. This is a 2-pound bag of mussels, just under a kilo. Remember that most of the weight is shell, so I'd say you want 1 pound per person if this is the only thing you're eating for dinner. That's a generous full meal for 2 right there. And really all we need with it are a few flavorings. I'm gonna want a whole head of garlic in this. Go big or go home. I'll chop that up pretty finely. Mussels cook in a flash, so anything you put in with them has to be able to cook really fast as well. Hence, shallots, the classic mussel allium. I like to cut those into very thin, long strips. That way you can kind of slurp them. If you mince them, they basically just disappear when cooked. For a fresh herb, my favorite with mussels is fennel fronds. The bulb itself I'll use in something else. That takes way too long to cook with mussels. So many other herbs could work. Really anything you got. Tarragon would be awesome. Plain old parsley. And that's it. That's all the prep this meal takes. It's almost as quick and easy as popping open a bag of ramen from the sponsor of this video, Emi. Let me tell you about them real quick. Emi is cool stuff. Instant ramen that isn't terrible for you. Check the ingredients. The noodles are chiefly made of pumpkin seed protein. They're still bound with gluten from grain, so they've got terrific chew, but check this pack. 21 grams of protein, just 5 net carbs, moderate sodium, tons of fiber, and note that beef is in quote marks. Emi has no animal products in it. The soup base gets its delicious meaty flavor from yeast extract, which is my new favorite thing. You may have seen my recent video about it. You don't have to be a vegan to love yeast extract. I'm not. It's awesome. There's ersatz shrimp and chicken flavors too. Order yourself a variety box like mine here. Hit my link in the description and use code Ragusia at checkout for $5 off your order. EmiEats.com/Ragusia. Use code Ragusia for $5 off a variety pack today. You can make them in the microwave too, but that was just 7 minutes on the stovetop. About the same time it'll take to actually cook these mussels. I had a big pot heating over medium-low while I chopped up my veg, and in goes at least a tablespoon of butter per full dinner portion of mussels. You could use olive oil instead. I'm making an effort to not brown this butter or these shallots and garlic that I'm cooking in it. Today I want bright, fresh, sweet flavors, not toasty brown ones. Just shake that around. You really don't even need a utensil to make mussels. In goes maybe a cup of white wine per full dinner portion, so like 2 cups there. This is not just Ragusia being Ragusia. White wine is one of the most common bases for mussel broth. It's incredible. If you don't do wine, I'd suggest water or seafood stock with a big splash of white balsamic vinegar to taste at the end. If I had a fresh red chili, I would have minced that up fine and put it in with the other veg, but dried chili flakes are just fine too. Grind in some black pepper. No salt yet because the mussels are salty. They came from the ocean. It's certainly not necessary, but lemon zest is lovely in mussel broth. It really freshens things up. While everything in there softens, I can quickly cut this lemon into wedges. I might squeeze one of those in the pot, but the others are for the table. All right, veg has been cooking for just 90 seconds. That's all the head start it needs. Swirl that around. We could cook our own shoes in this broth right now and they would taste good. I like a little olive oil with the butter, but I'm adding it toward the end to preserve its fruity flavors. Some people use a big splash of cream instead of oil or butter. That's very nice too. And it's time for the mussels. When they hit the heat, you may hear tiny squealing sounds. The mussels are not screaming. They do not have brains. It's just steam squeezing out of their shells. Cover up the pot to trap the steam, and then I plan to check on them in about 2 minutes. We're looking to see them all opening up. That's how you know they're cooked. The denaturing of the proteins pulls the shell open. How do you know if you're overcooking them? If you see the meats inside starting to shrink a lot, then they get rubbery. You want to pull them out when they're still really big and plump. I cooked these 5 minutes total. You could just dump them out, but I like to lift them out a few at a time with a slotted spoon for 3 reasons. 1, if you drop them with too much force, the shells will shatter or chip your plate. 2, this gives gives you an opportunity to inspect a few mussels at a time. People say that you should discard the ones that don't open during cooking. Supposedly, if they don't open, that means they were dead before you cooked them and may therefore be spoiled. That's not totally true. You can pry those open, and if they look and smell good on the inside, they're probably just fine. Third reason I like to lift these out of the broth is now it's really easy for me to taste the broth and make last-minute adjustments. Yeah, I think that just needs a tiny pinch more salt, and I think I do want one wedge of lemon squeezed. I'll keep the others on the side. Last thing is the fennel or whatever herb you're using, added at the last second to keep it green. And then you just shower that angel juice over the mussels and let it collect at the bottom of the bowl. How do you actually eat these? Some people pick out the meats with a teeny fork. To me, this is the far superior method. Grab a mussel and pull off the top shell, the one that the meat is not connected to. Discard that on what my mom always calls the dead soldier plate. That's kind of messed up, I now realize. Then dip the meaty shell into the broth. Get it all filled up. The adductor muscle holding the meat to the shell is cooked and very weak. All you have to do is slurp gently, and out it comes with all of that broth you collected. Yes, I appear to have a piece of garlic in my beard. That's a thing that happened, and I have to make my peace with it. Also very popular is dipping some crusty bread into the broth. When I was a kid, I was too grossed out to eat the mussels, but I ate the sop, and that was my gateway drug into bivalves. Among the most sustainable seafood you can eat. And a mussel with garlicky white wine broth is easily one of my top 5 favorite bites of food in existence. Plus, it's a perfect weeknight meal, literally 15 minutes start to finish. Truly one of the best things on this planet, IMHO.